Always a pleasure to have you join us. This is the New Times News Weekly Review, where we always take a look at top 5 stories that made headlines throughout the week. I am Lavi Mutanganchu. Tidjane Thiam, a renowned Ivorian banker and the immediate former chief executive officer of Swiss bank Credit Suisse, was appointed by cabinet to head the board of Rwanda Finance Limited. Rwanda Finance Limited is a corporation owned by the government whose primary responsibility is to develop and promote what is known as Kigali International Financial Center. The Ivorian banker is credited with turning around Credit Suisse's fortunes, having led the famous Swiss bank to its strongest performance in a decade before his departure early this year. Finance and investment experts who spoke to the New Times say that the new board of directors, among other things, will bring years of experience in a number of key aspects required in building an international financial center. Now, in other news, Zigama CSS slashed its interest rate on mortgage loans from 15% to 10% to make it affordable for members to own homes. Zigama members who acquire loans at 10% interest rate will be able to pay back the loan in not more than 20 years. According to James Dahiro, the board chairman of Zigama CSS, they issued the directive on instruction of President Paul Kagame, who is also the commander-in-chief. Dahiro noted that at least 70% of members of Zigama have acquired homes, and the review of interest rate is meant to raise that number to 100%. Now, as we proceed, the teacher placement exercise that saw top officials at Rwanda Education Board being suspended from their duties is expected to come to an end on Monday, November 16th. Speaking to the New Times, the officer in charge of information in the Ministry of Education, Flavia Salafina, said that the process is complex and will be explained in detail on Monday when the final list of teacher placements will be announced. The government is in process of recruiting over 7,000 new professional teachers in the 2020 academic year in order to improve the teacher-to-student ratio and cater for the new classrooms being constructed to decongest existing ones. However, when schools started reopening on November 2nd, concerns emerged that some teachers who had successfully passed their entry exams were not placed in their respective schools and had been stranded for more than 3 months. Now, in other news, the Rwanda Correctional Service allayed fears regarding the safety of inmates following COVID-19 cases that were reported in some prisons across the country. So far, prisons are the country's main COVID-19 hotspot after infections have been recently reported in Tsinda, Nyarugenge, and Muhanga prison. Speaking to the New Times, Senior Superintendent of Prisons Peli Uwera Gakwaya, the RCS spokesperson, said that all positive cases registered in prison so far are those of new inmates transferred to the prison from detentions. She added that the institution has reserved a special isolation facility at every prison countrywide where new inmates are isolated for a period of between 14 and 21 days and get tested before they are given green light to join other inmates. Now, before we wind up, let's take a look at what trended in sports news. France's return to total lockdown has forced Paris Saint-Germain to again delay plans to open its football academy in Rwanda. The academy, which is part of a 3-year deal that was signed in December last year between Rwanda and the French football giants, was expected to start operations in October this year. Oleg Karambizi, the advisor to the Minister of Sports, told the New Times that the launch of the academy depends on how soon the lockdown will be lifted in France, adding that everything is in place on Rwanda's side except a few details that can only be done once the delegation from France arrives in the country. Well, this marks the end of this week's New Times News Weekly Review. We thank you very much for being with us. We just want to remind you that this was just a review. Therefore, for more details on these stories and many others, kindly visit newtimes.co.rw. Don't forget to also subscribe to our YouTube channel, The New Times Rwanda. I am Lavi Mutanganchu, wishing you to have a very good and wonderful week ahead.